African Queen Mo channel subscribers and viewers, I hope you're doing good today. Yeah, today's another day. So thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate you coming back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about fighting corruption and the fact that corruption fights back. There's somebody who actually said that. They said, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. Yeah? They say that if you were to try to fight corruption, those who fight corruption will know that corruption will fight back. And if you happen to be a person of integrity, it's very difficult to live and to work with people who have a corrupt mindset. Yeah, it's difficult to work with them, it's difficult to live with them, it's difficult to interact with them. But unfortunately, we have people in this world who have decided, okay, to be completely corrupt. And it makes you wonder, where we're going from here. So basically, we have several mega corruption scandals that are taking place in the government of today. Now, for those of you who like to, as I heard today being quoted, drive using the rear view mirror, we are not going to be discussing the corruption of the previous Uhuru regime because we are in a new regime, we're in a new dispensation. Why should we be talking about the past? Let's talk about today. Yes, as much as the past influences the future, in fact, the fact is that we actually have a sitting president who used to be the deputy president. So, in fact, we should be bringing on his record from the past before. But at the moment, we have new scandals taking place and we can hardly keep up and catch up. So we're not going to fall into the trap of driving with the rear view mirror because we might have an accident if we don't look ahead. Okay, so currently, we have several mega corruption scandals. Okay, apart from the fuel that was imported irregularly, we have no idea where it disappeared to. What did you guys think about it? It was so interesting to hear people, even within the opposition itself, judge a person just by how they speak, how they look, what they're dressed in. It's just unbelievable. We are so... Why is it that we as Kenyans, are still stuck in that mentality that we would judge a book by the cover? If you were to do that, then even people like Mark Zuckerberg, who is the owner of Facebook, if you look at him, he looks like a very simple man. He probably doesn't even wear a suit and a tie. He doesn't smell like money at all. If you just look at him and you listen to him, he just sounds like a very simple man. Yeah, but look at him, he's the owner of Facebook. But definitely people like Richard Branson. Yeah, and in Africa, we have people who walk around, including Mama Shambas. They wear a headscarf. And they wear funny clothes. Some of them are not even educated. They use their thumb, okay, as a thumbprint. So guys, we need to get out of that mentality, that mindset, whether it's stated by the opposition leaders or the actual leaders of the government. Hey, does this woman even look like anybody who can even touch 17 billion shillings? You might be surprised. Actually, she does have 17 billion shillings. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Yeah? I've seen them actually at the bank when they come in with their long Mother Union dresses. And they come in with their children because many of them don't even speak English, but they're doing transactions. They own big buildings, big plots. Yeah, they're renting to you and I, PhD holders. We are paying Mama Mboga. Yes, we are. Yeah, high level women. And so it's very possible she may not have actually had the 17 billion and she may not know how government runs, but she can definitely strike a deal. I have a friend who once gave me a story about this gentleman who he took to the bank, a friend of his. And the guy doesn't read and write, but he has properties, big millions of shillings in the bank. He uses his thumb. Anybody who works in banking knows those people who have a lot of money. Those people who have fancy signatures, not like me, don't necessarily have any money in the bank. But those people who are using their thumbprint, many of them cannot read and write. They have a lot of money and they do transactions and they speak in their local language. I think I'm beyond belaboring this point. Let's move on. That matter, I don't know where it is standing right now, but there's a lot of stories about, why didn't she show up? Well, why didn't the CS of Treasury show up? Why didn't the CS of Energy show up, in front of the Parliamentary Finance Committee? If you expect a woman like that, just a regular Raya, who has a problem with her shipment of oil, to show up, and then you're not questioning the people who are in government who don't show up when they're called to give an account of the situations in their dockets. When they don't show up, it's not an issue. But when a lady doesn't show up who claims to have been tortured and abducted and kidnapped and kept in a room and almost, lost her life, when she's asked to come to the parliament and she doesn't, then it's a big issue. I think, you know, we need to check ourselves because I think there's a lot of hypocrisy, yeah, with us. Way too much of it. Way too. Let's talk about the corruption heists that are right now trending in the country. The first heist that I would like to bring your attention to is the National Government County Development Fund. Now, the NGCDF, okay, used to be called the CDF. The CDF actually, parliamentarians just the other day, leave parliament and
The children of the poor must go to school. Kenyan children must go to school. Kenyan children must go to school.
CDF is an illegal thing. It is not anywhere enshrined in the law. The government does not have any obligation under the law to release those funds. Because the CDF Act, the County Development Fund Act, was challenged before the High Court of Kenya, which found it unconstitutional. Okay? The High Court judgment was partly upheld and then partially reversed by the Court of Appeal. But the case then traveled to the Supreme Court of Kenya, and by its judgment of 8th August 2022, it found that the CDF was unconstitutional in its entirety. Why is the CDF unconstitutional? Okay, in layman terms, okay, let me tell you as somebody who's not a lawyer. The CDF was a fund that was basically instituted as a sort of interim measure when the counties were in the process of devolvement. When we got our Constitution 2010, the Constitution came when our country was in an administrative system where everything was centralized at the national level. All the funds that go to different projects in the country, everything was centralized at the national level. And so with the new Constitution, what happened is that those projects were now supposed to be devolved to the counties. But while they were setting up those counties with the governors and administration, they had to have those projects continuing because the money was still being collected through our taxes. So they still had to relegate at least 30% to development. Plus there was also development money coming in. So that CDF was actually managed by the members of parliament. That CDF Act basically was found to undermine the devolved system of government under the Kenya Constitution, because it was setting up a parallel third level of government. It was looking like the MPs were competing for monies that actually the governors of the counties were supposed to have. So once the fund was set up, it was only supposed to be temporary. It wasn't supposed to be for a long period of time. Okay, so the CDF basically was scrapped, and the act was found to violate the separation of powers by granting MPs who are part of the legislative arm of government. You know, there are three arms of government. There's the executive, which is the president and his vice president. There's the legislative, which is the MPs, members of parliament, okay, who actually are responsible for writing laws, amending laws, passing budgets, things like that. And then we have who? We have the judiciary arm. And you know who the judiciary arm is, yeah? We have the Attorney General and all their people under there, okay? So basically what happened is that the CDF, like I said, was found to be undermining the authority of the county and also interfering with the process of devolution. Another problem is that, you see, if the CDF is under the legislative arm of government, it means that it has a potential for misuse or underuse or overuse or selective use by the members of parliament. When there was using CDF, there are several regions of the country that I do remember that were underdeveloped deliberately, okay, by members of parliament who are responsible for that county development fund. So especially things like roads, hospitals, things like that in the counties were not getting enough support from the CDF. So it was very personalized. It was very individualized. Okay, so the performance of the CDF was tied to the personality of the members of parliament. But you see now, what's supposed to happen is that the county governments are supposed to receive funding from the central government, from the central pot of money. They're supposed to get the 30%. I think it was 10 billion initially that was supposed to go to county development fund. That money now was supposed to be actually sent to the counties for the county governors to manage and to use them according to their own priorities and the priorities of the people. As we were explained to, by several people. What happens is that in a centralized system, like I've said to you before, when the money is concentrated in the central powers of the government, it means that the people at the grassroots level do not have access. So, for example, you're far maybe in a place like Moyale, you're in Kisumu, or you're in Mombasa, or far away basically. You're in Nyeri. You cannot come down to Nairobi, talk to your MP, to ask him about, hey, what happened to this project that we had said was priority in our village? Why is it not? But you see, if the governor is in charge, the governor actually resides within your county, okay, or he has an office within your county, within your village. You have access to him. You know, you can invite him for meetings. You can attend meetings, yeah, and you can influence him. During the barazas, the CDF Act substantially affected the functioning of county governments, and it required it to be scrutinized by the Kenyan Senate. Okay, which under Article 96 of the Constitution is tasked with representing the counties and safeguarding their interests. Okay, this, however, has not been done. You know, these parliamentarians, they don't want to let go of those purse strings. They don't want to let go of that money. So they came up with a very sneaky way, okay, and decided to rename the County Development Fund as the NGCDF. So anytime that you make any reference to the CDF Act, that was basically quashed by the Supreme Court, they will now make reference to the NGCDF. So basically the CDF never went anywhere. We still have MPs who are still competing for funds with the county governors. We saw the county governors just the other day when they were trying to fight El Nino say that they did not receive any of this money. Yeah? Who knows? Maybe this money went into the national government CDF funding pool of money, and so the MP can look nice and do his projects in the county. But meanwhile, the poor governors don't have access. A governor is almost becoming a flower girl or a flower boy. And I guess, you know, it also causes them now to compete for funds, to compete to be in the best books of their representative at the centralized level, so that they can get access to money. But that's not fair, because Kenyans are paying taxes everywhere in the country, so they should have access to this money. So the office, so the national government CDF is not constitutional. The government is also not under any sort of obligation to release the national government CDF. Guys, just know that. That CDF is not guaranteed. Yeah? It's not guaranteed, because how are you going to justify the disbursement of those funds? Under what? Under what? Under which constitution? Under which article under the Constitution? All right. So that's it. Yeah? Okay. So let's move over now. Now that we've talked about the standoff between the parliamentarians and the withholding of the national government CDF, you understand the position on that situation. That the government is under no obligation to release those funds. And when the government doesn't have any money, when the director of, when the National Treasury boss, CS Ndomo, says, the cabinet secretary Ndomo says, we are actually struggling to pay salaries at the moment. You know, when he says something like that, just know the CDF is not going to be released. Even if they've been releasing it, it's actually, you know, not right. They should not have been releasing these monies, the National Treasury. And I think that there should be an audit of the National Treasury to find out, you're releasing these funds as what? As what? Under what constitutional article are you releasing these funds? And this is the reason why the second issue that I want to discuss right now, it's a very serious matter, is the arrest of the controller of budget, Margaret Nyakango. Okay? She was arrested while she was in a car in the company of her husband driving. And she says that she saw a car following her. They noticed that there was a car following them, and they followed them all the way home. And when they got home, they instructed her to wear warm clothes and to come with them. Can you imagine how disempowering that is for the husband? You're releasing your wife to go with men that you don't even know, a group of people that you have no idea about. The story is that they take her back to the city center. They get instructions that they're supposed to take her to Mombasa, which is 500 kilometers away. Guess what? They bundle her up in a car and drive in the middle of the night to Mombasa. Anybody who knows Mombasa Road now, during El Nino rains, knows about the dangers of flash floods on Mombasa Road. The other problem is because of the Savo Park being overflooded. We know that there are elephants on the way. We know that there's cars that have crashed. Just the other day I was watching an accident of a car that hit wildlife on the Mombasa highway. And there was somebody who was dead on the side of the road, and they're looking for people to identify these people who lost their lives because they were driving in the middle of the night. And I discourage anybody from driving in the middle of the night on Mombasa Road. And I've used the buses from Mombasa to Nairobi often. But nighttime driving is well known. It's a very big risk in Kenya. So my question is, they go alone with her. This to me is complete intimidation. It is wrong. It looks like a kidnapping. It's completely lawless. Totally lawless. Show me where in the Constitution a woman who holds a constitutional position, like the control over budget, the only control over budget that we have in Kenya, in the middle of her 8-year term, that means that she served the previous government and she's now serving this government. She's a whistleblower. The government endangers her life, literally, and pegs her down on a matter that has got nothing to do with this government at all. Nothing to do with this period. The government of the day came into power last year, 2022. They did not fire her as soon as they came. They should have done that if there was a problem. They should have vetted all the officers and found out, do you have a history of, a questionable history. Now they're coming on to a matter that is completely unrelated. 2016, I don't know, she started some SACCO. Well, we don't know. It's too long ago. We can't remember that. Yeah? If there was any problem, I believe that the Attorney General's office should have found that information out. But because she is a PhD, an accountant, she's also got a level of integrity on her. She has come on the media, she blew the whistle, and she has cried out to her colleagues to say, I'm allowing withdrawals from the kitty. I know that there's money in the kitty, so I'm allowing the withdrawals to happen. But that money should be reversed and should be returned. The Auditor General, the auditor himself, is supposed to investigate that matter. It's not her role. Those roles, as she explained to us, have been separated. So her role is just to sign off the withdrawals. She made it very, very clear. Anybody who watches that, who wants to go watch what she talked about on Spice TV, you're going to learn a lot about her role. The role of the controller of budget. In fact, I even wrote down somewhere. What is her role? Let's repeat it here for everybody else who may not know about it, including my international viewers. And anybody who is outside of Kenya, please listen to the controller of budget's role in Kenya. And maybe see whether there's a similar type of role in your own country. It was established by the Constitution of Kenya 2010 under the Articles, and the Constitution of Kenya was approved under a referendum. It was voted by the Kenyan people, and we are very proud of that document. And it's really, literally our map. Okay? So basically, Dr. Nyakango, her role of her office is to monitor and report budgeting implementation, to approve withdrawals under Articles 204, 206, and 207, which describe how money moves from the Consolidated Fund, Equalization Fund, and the County Revenue Fund. There are 3 funds: Consolidated, Equalization, and County Revenue Funds. Okay? So she approves withdrawals from all those different funds of government. She controls a huge sum of money, running into trillions, of shillings. So it describes how the money moves from the different funds, and there's a process, and she signs it off. Okay? She has to sign off each withdrawal from the Consolidated Fund to other funds to ensure that they are within the law. So she has double job as an auditor, that the amounts that are withdrawn and requested are correct, that the forms are filled in properly, and on the other hand, she has to make sure that it's in line with the law, that there's a legal process. Okay? So she has to do a lot of consulting back and forth. A very difficult job that she has. The third role she has is oversight. So all those parliamentarians, the members of parliament, are her bosses. And she's very proud to say that those MPs are her bosses. So she reports to them and to nobody else. Okay? And so she reports to her boss at the national. They're the MPs and the representative of the people at the county and also at the national level, at the centralized level. She's also responsible for investigation to ensure that people are doing things the right way, to follow up on things when go wrong when they're reported in public. And this is her role. This is exactly why I'm saying she's responsible for investigation. This is the office. This is the constitutionally, this is her constitutional mandate. Her constitutional mandate is to investigate and ensure that people are doing their job and that things are being done the right way. Yeah, so if there's a problem, she's supposed to blow the whistle and to follow up on things when they go wrong and report as reported by the public. And she said very clearly that she will never come to the public or to the media until she has first reported the matter to her bosses, who are the MPs. So the MPs are already aware about this. And she has the right to inform the public because it's a public office. Okay? The sixth thing is that it's dispute resolution related to budgets and allocations where projects her office mediates. So she mediates on disputes, okay? And she tries to reconcile and to negotiate so that if there's any disputes in the budgets, oh, why didn't you give me enough budget? Why is it da? She can explain, she can try to negotiate, she can also try to mediate disputes because of her knowledge. And because she knows the law and because she knows the accounts and she knows she has access to the money. So it's her responsibility to do dispute resolution. It's not just herself, it's herself and her team. Okay? She also is supposed to do public sensitization, which is well within the rules of what she's been doing. Margaret Nyakanyo did a fantastic, fabulous job of public sensitization, which is, for instance, in partnering with the press and the print media, TV, to ensure that the message gets to the people. Listen, guys, can you see the controller of budget's role? This is what she signed when she was given her terms of reference for her job. When she signed on her TOR, she signed and said, I will sensitize the public, okay? And I will partner with the press and the media, the TV, to ensure that the message gets to people.
Even as time goes forward and things go forward now, the elephant that is taking up a little bit more space in the room that is comfortable for people is that there will still be approvals for money to be paid today, tomorrow, to pay back loans. And I'm still on that issue.
Yeah.
To pay back loans, which should have been for development, that we cannot attach a development project to, and the money has already been spent.
Right.
Should we not then be entering into a process whereby this accounting is being done and the questions are being asked? Because loans in the schedule are being paid, loans in the future are going to become due very quickly, and that money will be approved for expenditure by your office for those payments. But we're still saying we don't know where that money went.
Okay, I'll answer you. That one is actually very straightforward. The Auditor General is already on that.
Okay.
That is the role of the Auditor General now. Because the Auditor General needs to say, were these monies spent lawfully? Spent. Now we are on the spending side.
Yes.
So they'll go dive into the transaction documents and tell us, did this loan go to that project?
Yes.
And to what extent? Yeah? So what are we paying? So all those are there. Now, as far as public debt is concerned, and I also had the figures here, the revised figure for public debt for this ended financial year is 1.360.9 trillion, out of which I have approved withdrawals of 1.168.6 trillion.
For debt repayment?
Yes, for debt repayment. Now, if you compare the figure for public debt and the figure for recurrent, you will see that we have spent more on public debt than the whole recurrent expenditure for the government for the whole year.
Yes.
Yes. That is the truth. So we still have some
So how does that?
invoices.
No, I would like to repeat that, please.
Huh?
Yes, we've spent more on paying debts than we are spending on what we need.
On all
On
recurrent.
recurrent.
Yes.
All.
Yes. Now, if you add recurrent and development to the MDAs only, without the counties,
What are MDAs?
ministries, departments, and agencies.
National
So those
government.
are ministries and all the other bodies below
All
them.
the other entities.
Yes.
That.
Yes. Yes, each ministry has certain agencies
They
that
do.
carry out their functions. So, all together, we have done 1.530 billion. That is what I have released. 1.530 trillion.
trillion shillings.
Yes. And now on public debt, I said I have released 1.168 trillion. But that is short of what the budget was.
What was the budget?
The revised budget for public debt is 1.360 trillion. So we've only done 85%.
So
Of
even
the
what we were
loans,
supposed
of the
to
loan
have paid
repayment.
in the loan for the loans that year,
Yes.
we have not even paid.
We have not paid all of it.
So you're supposed to pay X amount to your bank this year, 100,000 shillings. You've only paid 80,000 shillings. You have a deficit of 20,000. What happens to that? It attracts penalties.
Yes, but okay. Sometimes what happens, there are loan lenders who send invoices late, and then there are some that have been restructured in a way. You know,
Yeah.
we asked for the repayment to be delayed a little, so the figures are not quite going to match. So for those that were restructured, there are certain countries that had given us a bit of leeway.
Yes.
So we were given a bit of time during COVID. So these ones may explain.
So we may not get that kind of
Yes.
penalty.
Yes.
Getting a bit dark in here. Let me put on the light. Oops. I think that's much better, right? Here in the UK, we have a problem because, it gets dark so early. So sorry if I kept you in the dark there for some time. So, one of the things I was saying is that, the IMF, the World Bank, nobody wants to appear to seem like they are promoting lawlessness. Okay, so Margaret has a right. They could have easily summoned her to court, at a court date, invite her to come to court. Just like what's happening with Boris Johnson. Right now, the timing couldn't even have been worse. What you have done to Margaret Nyakango, the timing could not have been worse, because at the moment, right now, there's this COVID inquiry going on in the UK. And I'm always giving similarities to the UK because this is where I live. Not because I want to look like I know so much about the UK, blah, blah, or the UK doesn't have anything to do with us. But guys, I live here. Yeah? And the reason why many people flee to countries such as the UK and developed countries so far is because of this barbaric and civil way of handling issues that we still use till today, of intimidation. At the moment, we have Boris Johnson, who is basically going through the COVID inquiry quietly. He is being questioned. He has to answer very, very tough questions. In fact, immediately he started with an apology. If things were done, if with the benefits of hindsight, if he knew then what he knows today, he would have done things differently. Okay, that is just basically what I got from there. Yeah. But generally, what I'm saying is that you'd never imagine somebody like a Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, being buckled up in the middle of the back of a car and being driven between England and Northern Ireland in the middle of the night. That would never happen. Not in this country. This is a free country. This is a democracy. This is where we have free speech. We expect Kenya to also be a democracy. This is why we have the constitution. The days are over. The days are long gone when Kenya is run like a lawless state. The days are long gone when we had that kind of intimidation of public officials. The days are long gone, guys. Stop living in the past. We are now in the present, okay? We are now in the present. And now, even worse, we have social media. So you cannot be... I saw President Ruto today landed from India, I believe, and I saw that he was talking to, I think they are diplomats that are supposed to be representing Kenya, ambassadors that are going to be going to different countries. And he's telling them to portray Kenya in a positive light. Excuse me, it starts from home. Charity starts from home. If you want Kenya to be portrayed in a positive light by your ambassadors, make it easy for them by not arresting state officers like Margaret Nyakango and putting her in a car and driving her from between one city to the next city in the middle of the night. What kind of positive image are you showing there for Kenyans? What? How? You're making the job of the ambassadors extremely difficult. I'm sorry to say. So guys, let's go to the third issue right now. And I'm going to end up on this one, guys, because I think I don't want to make this very long. But I want to talk about the Kenya National Exams Council. Opposition leader Raila Odinga brought our attention to, he has criticized the government. Okay, it takes the opposition leader to criticize the government, which he did on Monday, 4th December 2023. He criticized the government over the irregularities recorded in the recently released 2023 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exam results. The results were released by Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu on Thursday, and there are so many complaints associated to those exams, guys. Can you imagine as a student who takes Kiswahili Instead of Kiswahili, you see sign language. And you see marks for sign language. And you never even took the sign language exam. Let alone the fact that a certain school had all candidates score the exact same marks, which is scientifically, statistically impossible in one science subject. Impossible. A complete impossibility. Instead of accepting that there's something wrong here, the Kenya National Exams Council on Saturday, they addressed their concerns of the identical marks and they said, well, we have conducted a deep review and we see no signs of malpractice, basically because science is a multiple choice question, so it's possible for the candidates to receive the identical marks. Every single person in the class got the exact same mark. These people are uneducated. This is the problem with having a National Kenya Exams Council run by people who are not educated. Because even if you had just a high school education, or even if you knew just a little bit of maths, you know very well that you will never. It is statistically impossible. Completely impossible. This is a computer era. That shows that these marks were generated by computer. Got nothing to do with the exams. So, all of you people who are celebrating the fantastic performance of your kids, good for you. I understand. Those of you who are crying and decrying the performance of your children, some of you parents are in court. Yeah? I don't blame you. Yes, you should take the government to court over this issue. Yeah? And the reason why did this happen? This happened, we heard, because the government had a contract with a UK-based company. Because you know in the UK they also do the same kinds of exams. Yeah? So, and our education is based on the British systems. So they have very many layers of security to ensure that there's no copying, that these exams cannot be hacked. But then what happened is that that contract was taken away from that company because somebody somewhere wanted a kickback. They wanted, corruption reared its eerie head. They wanted a kickback and the company said no. So guess what happened? They took the contract, gave it to another company, and these people refused to release the codes or the security codes for the exams. So they were sent to some company somewhere else, somewhere on Mombasa Road in Kenya. The exams were printed. We know that there was a lot of cheating and copying. We are aware about that. It leaked seriously. So those exams are literally pretty useless. But you see, one thing that we don't realize is this. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, guys. I'm almost at a loss for words, you know. We don't seem to really understand the linkage or, you know, the linkage between those kinds of actions and the impact on not just those children. Of course, the impact is huge on those kids, but not just on them, but on their parents, on the system, on Kenyans, on my child who will apply for a job somewhere. Kenyans who have been educated in the Kenyan educational system, whether it's in primary school, secondary school, it is not just seen as a one-off event. You give people opportunity to basically question the integrity of Kenyan examinations and the integrity of Kenyan qualifications. Apart from these exams, there are rumors. Okay, I call them rumors, but there are allegations out there that some of the cabinet secretaries, some of the people who are running the government have fake papers, that they do not have, that the degree certificates are to be questioned. There's a university, for example, in Nigeria, Tinubu, okay, the president of Nigeria, Tinubu himself, the university which he said that he qualified from in America. And oh my God, the Chicago University, he says that now, but you know what he did? Instead of owning up to the fact that his university certificates were fake, he decided to go and blame the university for discrepancies in his certificate, the University of Chicago. Why is that? Yeah? They say that his academic records have been enmeshed in controversies since 1999 after he became the governor of Lagos State. He has this Chicago State University certificate that's completely fake. Yeah? And he told the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Illinois that the errors in his certificate had become a subject of litigation and were made by the Chicago State University, which issued 2 certificates at different occasions. At the same time, yeah, The authorities at the Chicago State University said one of the reasons they could not release the academic record of the president was because they could not establish any bearing the release of such a record would have on the election petition currently at the tribunal. Basically, the university doesn't want to get involved in rubbish like that, you know? Because honestly, sincerely, if he had actually graduated, at least there would be one or two professors. Even for me, for example, I know the names of professors. I have them in my email. I can contact them. They know. They signed off my certificate. They signed off my degree. I know who signed my degree. I know who signed my transcripts. I have my transcripts. If not the degree, at least I can present my transcripts and say, here are the courses I did, and these are the marks that I got, and these are the teachers that taught them, and they're signed. You who has graduated also have the same thing. So why is it that Tinubu doesn't have that? The same thing with Kenya. You guys, we should not play around with our education system because it is flawed. You can call it one incident, you can call it one thing, but that one incident has huge repercussions going forward as well as backward. Our education system should be guarded. It should be guarded. It's a national security matter because it's also an issue where we say that we don't trust, you know, the qualifications or the abilities of Africans and of Kenyans. It's bad for Africa. It makes Africa look bad, not just Kenya. So I think on that note, guys, we're going to end our discussion today on that particular note because those are the three issues that I wanted to talk about. Mainly the standoff with the national government CDF, and then Dr. Nyakango, and then the National Exams Council. Okay? Oh, it looks to me like I cannot go without discussing another horrible scandal. And maybe because of my background in nutrition as well, it's a big issue for me, which is the edible oils issue. There's a report by Tuko in Tuko newspapers, digital network, about the cooking oil scandal. 9.3 billion shilling edible oils allegedly goes missing, declared unfit for consumption. And it was updated on Friday, when was this? Friday the 1st, 2023. Kenya National Trading Corporation imported 125,000 metric tons of unprocessed edible oil to be distributed via dispensing machines in the country. The Senate Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism, chaired by Senator Lanku Seki, accused the Ministry of Trade of concealing information on the oil. Kenyans will have to wait for a while to buy cooking oil at a cheaper price. Okay, so the main issue is this. The Kenya government allowed duty-free importation of cooking oil. 125,000 metric tons. And don't forget that we actually have our processors in the country for edible cooking oil. Okay? And one of the reasons I remember that when I was in Kenya last year, those particular companies could not get Forex. They needed to pay for some ingredients or some, inputs to process those oils. So they actually shut their companies for a period of time. And they could not get that Forex, adequate Forex from the banks. But somehow, the government could import, so 125,000 times 1,000 kilograms of unprocessed edible oil was imported into the country. It smells like a rat. It smells nasty, guys. And then, guess what happened? What was so amazing with this is that recently, after 125,000 metric tons of oil arrives in the country, KEBS, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, declares the oil unsuitable for human consumption. Okay? Based on various things like moisture content, some masses in the oil, and things like that. Can you imagine? Yuck. So they declared it unfit for human consumption. This is the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Who knows who arm twisted the Kenya Bureau of Standards? That was when? In a letter dated 5th of September and addressed to the Managing Director of the Kenya National Trading Corporation, and the Kenya Bureau of Standards concluded the consignment has been rejected and the importer is hereby advised to reship them back to the country of origin within 30 days from the date of this letter, failure to which they shall be destroyed at the importer's cost. So actually this letter was sent way back on the 5th of September this year by KEBS. Okay? And they even gave it a long number. Kenya Bureau of Standards Subject Consignment Entry Number 23 MBL, a very long number. Okay? So they said that the results failed to comply with vitamin A and insoluble impurities. Insoluble impurities. That means that there are some things in there, maybe stones. They're insoluble in the oil, but they're microscopic. You can't see them. And so if you use them to cook, you could be poisoning yourself. You're not so sure. But guess what? What is so shocking and so worrisome is that KEBS, the same Kenya Bureau of Standards, turned around and said, now, let me see here. Now, the Star newspaper, on the other hand, says, the Star newspaper, let me see which date this is. The Star newspaper makes a U-turn and approves 16.5 billion shilling condemned edible oils. Condemned edible oils are now okay. They have made a U-turn and they've said, actually, you know what? I think the oils are actually okay. And when did they say this? Oh, let me see when they said this. The edible oils were imported into the country by the Kenya National Trading Corporation, KNTC, for its edible oil dispensing machines. So all this oil in dispensing machines, apparently. Kenya Bureau of Standards. They previously declared that same oil unfit for human consumption. Now, suddenly, it's fit for human consumption. So they say from the tests done, the edible oil complied all the health and safety parameters that are applicable by the Kenya standard, KSEAS, and they give it a number, 2019. However, the sampled edible oils did not meet the vitamin A levels specified in the Kenya standard. This is not a health and safety parameter. So what they're trying to say is that they tested some of the other oils and they were fine. And they also tested some other oils and they were not fine. But this is the whole idea of actually testing, isn't it? You know, from my statistics, if I recall, there's something called sampling. There's a sampling strategy. And I'm sure KEBS has a very good sampling strategy. They know how to sample. You know, there's a way that you can actually input, you know, a data set and decide that you're going to sample every third or every fourth bottle or every 10th or every 20th, just to make sure it's representative of the whole. They did that initially and they found that it was unfit for human consumption. And now suddenly they turn around and they tell us that it's now fit for human consumption. So which is it? Yeah? Is it fit or is it unfit? This is on December 1st. Fresh controversy hit the condemned oil after senators claimed the consignment went missing from warehouses in Nairobi's industrial area. This consignment was in the industrial area and the members of parliament have not, when they went to check, they found that it was hardly there. I think they found like 45 jerry cans. They found so few. Out of 125,000 metric tons, guys, 125,000 metric tons of oil, they found like maybe just a couple of jerry cans of oil there. That means it has already found its way into the market, basically. Those of you guys who are eating these edible oils, I would just recommend, guys, in Kenya specifically, because in the UK, they are very, 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 very serious. The border control in the UK, you cannot just import anything into this country. You cannot. We buy oils and food from so many different shops, including shops that are run by foreigners, locals, local supermarkets, German supermarkets like Aldi, Lidl, Tesco, and then we also have UK supermarkets like Tesco. We have supermarkets that are run by the Kurdish people here, by refugees, people who have actually settled from different countries. And when you see all the different foods on their shelves, it has all passed the safety test. The way I know is because there's a time I tried to import just hair. I tried to import braids from Kenya and things like that. I tell you, they tested, they opened up the border control. Even if it was written that it was samples, they opened up everything and they tore my samples, tore them. Yeah? So basically what I'm saying is this. The Kenya Bureau of Standards needs to keep its standards. It should not become a politicized organization. It is an independent organization, just like the Controller of Budget's office. Independent does not mean irresponsible. It does not mean unaccountable. It means responsible and accountable to those that you are supposed to report to only. But you must keep your integrity. Integrity is a must. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. So thank you so much, guys. It's been such a lovely chat talking about corruption. Corruption will always rear its ugly head. I want to leave us with a quote from Nigeria. When you fight corruption, corruption fights back. That was a phrase that was coined by Nuhu Ribadu. He was the first head of Nigeria's premier anti-corruption agency. he famously made the observation that if you fight corruption, corruption fights back. But he's one of the most successful heads of the Nigeria Anti-Corruption Agency. Okay, he managed to get a lot of money to be repatriated back to the country. So we need to understand that it's not unusual for corruption to fight back. What it is that it's unfortunate that instead of holding somebody like Margaret Nyakango close to his chest, President Ruto chooses to allow her to be intimidated and literally abducted, driven by road, frightened. I cannot imagine that President Ruto would agree to that. I cannot believe that it would be him. So all I can say is that as a Kenyan living abroad, all I can say is that it sends jitters down the spine of everybody. And I believe this is the purpose. The purpose is to instill fear, to rule by fear, to instill fear amongst women, amongst people, to show them that first it was that lady Anne Jerry, who claims to have been abducted, kidnapped when she went to the DCI office. And then the next one now is Margaret Nyakango, who was also taken, a whole state officer. So they're showing women in Kenya that whether you're working at the lowest levels, whether you're a hustler or whether you're a state officer, you shall be intimidated by this government. We will allow intimidation to happen. We will allow you to be threatened. So these are attempts to silence people, and we are going to make noise on their behalf. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for listening. Thank you for your time. Please remember to subscribe, remember to share, and to put a thumbs up on this video. I'm more than happy to answer your questions, more than happy to read your comments. Your comments are lovely, and you know, there were some comments in there, I'm sorry to say, that were not very good comments because they were bordering on insult. Any insulting comments are not going to find their way on my platform. I will delete them, but I'm more than happy to answer questions, or even difficult questions. I'm more than happy to be engaged in a debate, that is seeking to find solutions. I'm not offering solutions, I'm offering information. I hope you understand that. Yeah, in no way am I offering solutions. And even if it sounds like I am not. And if I do offer solutions, they would have to be pegged or based on documents such as the Anti-Corruption Commission, the 2010 Constitution of Kenya. They have to be pegged in a sort of document or in something that Kenyans have agreed to. Otherwise, there's nothing that I'm actually inventing here. Yeah, I'm not an inventor. So, thank you very much. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Toodles. Thumbs up. Bye-bye.